Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Rando Geek. Alright, so an update regarding AT&T. Link for this article will be down for you in the description if you would like to read it on your own or send it to someone else. After this video, if you like the content on this channel and the news that we're bringing to you, please hit the like button and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Alright, so here's the update. So it looks like AT&T will be fined from the FCC $13 million. Now, this is in regards to the data breach that took back in 2023, January to be in particular. All right, so according to this article here, the AT&T data breach fine overview is AT&T has agreed to pay $13 million to end a Federal Communications Commission investigation into January 2023 data breach that affected nearly 9 million customers. So this isn't no small amount of customers. 9 million people. It's a lot of people. So a lot of accounts affected, a lot of consumers notified about this, and a lot of consumers having to worry about how bad the situation was, right? So the FCC said that it found that AT&T failed to ensure its vendor, who suffered the data breach, was adequately protecting the customer information it shared with it, which it looks like from 2015 up until 2017. They're saying the AT&T data breach affected millions of customers nationwide, right? So the FCC announced the agreement this week, saying that the fine ends the agency's investigation into whether AT&T failed to meet its duty to protect the information of customers. So the data breach occurred in January of 2023 after a threat actor was able to gain access to the cloud environment of one of its vendors and extracted AT&T customer information that had previously been shared with the vendor, according to the FCC. They're saying AT&T was also under investigation for whether it improperly used, disclosed, or permitted access to individually identified customer information without customer approval. So that's a horrible no-no. And if it failed to take reasonable measures to discover and protect against data breach efforts, according to the FCC. So they're saying that the FCC, which was also investigating if AT&T engaged in unjust and unreasonable privacy, cybersecurity, and vendor management practices in connection with the data breach, said that the telecom company ultimately bore responsibility for the incident. They're saying that AT&T failed to ensure its vendor adequately protected that customer information. Instead, it remained in the vendor's cloud environment for many years after it should have been deleted or returned to AT&T and was ultimately exposed in the 2023 data breach. So they're saying, as mentioned, the data breach exposed information that was shared by AT&T with the vendor between the years of 2015 and 2017, and this apparently included the number of lines on the account, and in several cases, bill balance and rate plan information, according to the FCC. All right, so the situation here is 9 million people affected by this. AT&T failed to dispose of that information with the end of the relationship between the vendor after the relationship expired. That information should have been destroyed and properly disposed. Now, this is a practice that should be followed by all businesses, period. Any business that deals with customer information, this is a practice that should be done. If the customer leaves, I get it. Maybe keep it for 6 months, maybe in case they return. So it's easy to kind of, get a hold on that customer's information, look back to see how the account responsibility was, whatever it is. Either way, it should be locked into a vault, a secured portal that only certain people with authority can really access, and it should only be accessed within that time frame allowed, maybe, like I said, 6 months tops. After that, that information needs to be completely removed, and they didn't do that, right? So they got hacked. That information was retrievable. Now, it wasn't as bad as it could have been because it looks like it was mostly just bill information, how many accounts were on the line. It wasn't anything that we know of. It wasn't something like addresses or social security numbers or date of births. Those things will make a customer a lot more vulnerable and can cause a lot of ridiculous aggravation in their lives. Now, recent data breaches from AT&T, that information has been included in the breaches, making consumer lives miserable. Imagine pulling up your credit report or getting an alert if you have Credit Karma or other some kind of credit agency monitoring service, and just getting an alert that, hey, you have a charge now of whatever it is, and you didn't do it, and now you gotta like go through this whole process to prove you didn't do it. It's annoying, right? It's a headache. Not to mention the good old dark web where your information gets publicly stored on there forever. That should just stays on there forever, right? So who knows how many copies of it are out there? It's just a headache. And companies like AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, outside of wireless, Paramount, Disney, we're hearing about stores being hacked. This is just going on and on and on. It's not just, companies that we even do business with day to day. I mean, it's literally corporations around the world is being hacked. It's really ridiculous and really strange and odd. So personally, this is a good thing that they're being fined. This is a very good thing for the consumer. Now, what would be even better if the fee was, of course, much larger, because the larger the fine, the more the consequences are, right? So 13 million isn't chump change. It would have been nice if it was more like 75 million, simply because consumers would have gotten a better amount of money, a bigger chunk of the pie here, because a lot of this money goes to attorneys, unfortunately. And, the consumer never gets what they deserve. Unfortunately, everybody wins but the consumer, as I've said in another video. This is just kind of how it is. We get the short end of the stick. But ultimately, I like that they got hit with the fine, and I hope these fines keep coming. And as I mentioned before, the FCC needs to do more than just fine them. These companies need to be treated like employees. The FCC is the boss. The FCC needs to call the shots and oversee what's going on. That's what they're supposedly doing, but they're not doing good enough. And when I say they're not doing good enough, they're not scrutinizing the companies in such a way that really teaches them a lesson, that puts them in their place. Data breaches happen. I don't know how many times I can say that, but there's got to be limitations, right? There's got to be accountability held by corporations with such large clientele that you need to have a 3-strike rule. Personally, I said, if you have more than 3 data breaches over a 5-year span of operating, maybe you need a break. Maybe you need a timeout so that you can figure out how to keep customers' information more secure. And like I just said, data breaches happen. Sometimes it's internal. Sometimes it's from an external source. Things happen. No company is perfect. We're hearing it far too much. It's kind of becoming a suspicious thing where, it does make you wonder how this is becoming so easy for all of these companies to be exposed, to be so vulnerable to customers' information falling into the hands of predators who are just looking for a way to sell that information. And God knows who they're selling it to, right? But either way, ultimately, the customer is the one that suffers. So I like this because I'm tired of hearing about it. Personally, they got to be held responsible. So I like it. And I want to continue to see fines. I want them to get larger. I want them to get much larger for all of these companies because they're not taking it serious enough. They're really not. They're not. If they were, they would make sure that the people that are in these positions would be doing a better job. I'm sorry. It's not enough to say that we're going to look into it. We're going to take action. They don't. The first thing they do is they try to lie and cover it up. They try to say that it wasn't severe, that it wasn't as big as that, it really is. They try to first deny that it even ever happened. They'll point the finger at anything else other than themselves. And this is a problem, right? And, what do you do? It's not a matter of leaving AT&T for T-Mobile. It'll happen there. It'll happen with Verizon. So that's why I said the FCC needs to step up and they need to mandate a plan for these companies to figure out a way to do better. Dispose of customers' information properly. Lock it down. Do whatever it takes to keep it from getting out there into the hands of wrong people. We should not be hearing about so many data breaches. And AT&T alone, they're like I said before, they're catching up with T-Mobile, man. It's getting bad. It's getting bad. These companies, they're not new to operating, okay? So whoever they got in place now, their security team, their IT team, their development team, whatever it is, they need a readjustment there because they're in the news too much for negative things regarding data breaches. Forget the outages. Like the outages, that's a whole different story. Like that's another problem in itself. But the data breaches, there's no excuse for that stuff. Like it's far too common. So I want to keep hearing about the punishment. I want to hear about the fines. I want them to get larger. And I really do think the FCC, and I had heard something about this, and I talked about it recently in another video regarding AT&T. They did press them a little bit, and they did kind of say that they're going to investigate the outages. They want to know why they're having so many outages. Okay, they're kind of getting tired of it. A lot of big companies and people in high positions use AT&T as a reliable carrier. People in very high positions, people that might be in Congress or other political positions, they use AT&T. It's a well-known, reliable network that many people depend on. It's not like they're not some new carrier that just came around. And no, a lot of people in very important positions do rely on AT&T, Verizon as well. T-Mobile, not as much, but it's growing. Their reliability is growing. Some people are starting to give them the benefit of the doubt. So you see my point here, right? Like you're messing with the wrong people. They want to know why these things keep happening. So they need to treat the data breaches the same way. Why is this happening so much? Fines are good, but along with the fines, disciplinary action is also very important. As always, thank you guys so much for stopping by and watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.